Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the growth class. I'm your host, Phil Masiello, and today we've got something a little bit different than what we normally do, but businesses and profitable businesses come in all shapes and sizes. And today we're going to talk with Nick Shaw, who's built a profitable business, and he's an ex-IFBB pro, uh, and really lived the lifestyle. Then he built his business sort of around his passion of that lifestyle. So today we're going to look under the hood of a multi-million-dollar company with someone who understands that better than anyone. He's the co-founder and CEO of Renaissance Periodization, or RP Strength. He took his background in sports management from the University of Michigan, turned a small science-based coaching service into a massive fitness technology brand driven by AI-powered RP hypertrophy app. So we're going to cut to the fluff and talk about the actual mechanics of scaling with one-on-one services to a massive tech footprint. So, Nick, welcome to the growth class.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Great to be here.
Yeah, an interesting background, and an interesting path, I think, to from what you were doing to a powerful app. So, can you kind of take us through that journey a bit?
Yeah, I think from a pretty early age when I first got into lifting weights, I had a brother who was a few years older than me, and we had in my parents' basement. This is growing up in like rural Michigan. We had some like old sand plates. Some of them, you might know what I'm talking about. One of those like
Yeah,
really skinny benches where you could barely just fit your head in between. And, my brother, who was 4 years older, so he was, training, working out for high school sports and all that. And I just saw that and I was like, oh, this seems pretty cool. And really just got started that way. And no doubt about it, fitness was really just always kind of my calling. And because I just loved training, I loved lifting. I was a runner in high school. So I was just always working out. Just loved it. Love the idea that kind of the amount of hard work you put in, you get out a really good return from it. And because I wouldn't say that I was very like talented when it came to sports, but I worked really, really hard, especially in the weight room, especially when it came to training, and was able to, be definitely an above average athlete in high school. My main two things were running, ironically, but and really I attribute that to just, is it okay if I swear? Is that allowed on the podcast?
yeah,
My ass off.
but yeah.
And
That's
so, yeah. I really loved it. Went to school to study sports management because like sports, athletics was just always my passion. And, sports and fitness are pretty closely related. And so it just was always something I was drawn to and ended up meeting at the University of Michigan, my colleague, Dr. Mike, who is kind of the face of our YouTube channel now. And he convinced me to like get into competitive lifting. That was powerlifting, later bodybuilding. And to say that I was hooked was an understatement, was sort of just solidified that fitness and sports was kind of my true passion and calling and where I needed to be. And, lo and behold, we never thought it would become anything, but it's turned out to become something pretty cool. I'm super proud of. And, I like to say I've got three kids. I, of course, have two kids. My son's 14. My daughter is, well, I guess when this comes out, she'll be 12. Her birthday's coming up in a couple days. And
great.
then I, of course, have RP, which, that's just, it all means the world to me. It's all things I love and hold very near and dear to my heart. So it's been a great journey and I'm super just happy with everything.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. Especially when you're doing something that you really, really love and you can keep doing it for forever, especially around athletics and bodybuilding, weightlifting, strength training. They're all sort of interrelated. And there's so many studies out about the longevity of your brain, longevity of your muscles, the longevity of your body as you get older to that benefit from strength training. And I was always an athlete in high school, usual stuff for guys, basketball, baseball, football. But I never really got into um, bodybuilding or strength training, more just weight training because I like that would benefit me in sports. Um, so, and then I went on and started running and cycling and doing triathlons and things like that, and which I still do some of. And I've recently got into indoor rowing, which started with during the during the pandemic, but I really love it. And so, but I never thought, it's funny because I never thought about taking that in as a career path, it was always sort of a side gig. But I do have a friend who took their passion for doing triathlon and turned it into a retail store and training and some other things and some things online. So, I applaud you because it's great because they love it and they seem to have a low stress life.
Uh, maybe some days not so much. I'll say, yeah, no. Listen, it's great. It definitely, when you have that purpose and calling behind you, it's a little bit easier to wake up some days, even if you are going through the stressful or the tougher times. If I was doing something completely unrelated to what I really really loved, I can only imagine it would be a little bit harder. But again, I'm super, blessed, fortunate, super grateful that got a lot of good people around me that work for RP. So just shout out to them.
So, but you didn't start out with the app. You really started out really just as a coaching business, did you not?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can take it one step further. So once I graduated from University of Michigan in 2009, I moved out to New York City, where Dr. Mike and I were both personal trainers. So we were training people in person in Manhattan. Phenomenal. Never even been to New York City. Drove out. My buddy drove me out, interviewed, got it. What's really funny about the interview is I showed up to a gym and I was like wearing a suit, which, like I never wear a suit because I'm just
Yeah.
a kind of meathead, completely overdressed, but, got the job. We got to train some of just like the best, smartest, brightest people in the world. We're talking, hedge fund folks, doctors, accountants, lawyers, all that stuff. Really, really great people.
Yeah.
Highest respect for all those folks. And this was not long after the whole kind of crash around 2007, 2008. So it was really interesting to get all their perspectives. But kind of knew that, man, personal training, one-on-one, being there on your feet all day long, you kind of have to be there early, you got to be there late, because that's when people are training. They're training before work, they're training on lunch hour, they're training, after work. Really, really hard gig. Shout out to personal trainers. They really bust their tail. And so I was just like, this isn't really sustainable enough. I want to do this for, the next 20 years, even as much as I love it. Right. And so, Mike had moved down to East Tennessee State where he was getting his PhD, and he was working with some people online, and we kept referring folks back and forth to one another. And he was just like, hey, like, why don't we just start a little business? And that way, rather than just say, hey, I'm referring you to my friend, it's, hey, referring you to my colleague. And so that's kind of how I got started in online. And once I started working with a few people online, it became one of these, oh, one of the aha moments.
Yeah.
This is a lot more scalable. I could sit in my, New York City apartment, and I don't have to go take the subway, walk down all the stairs when it's 100 degrees in the summer and it feels like a microwave down there, all that crazy stuff. I was like, wow, I can just sit at home and do this. And so what happened was I slowly went from like 100% in person to 0% online to maybe like 80-20, 50-50, 20-80, and then all of a sudden it was like I could pretty much pick and choose if I wanted to work with people. So that was like the first aha moment of like, hey, there's something here on how to scale. But even when you're coaching people just one-on-one, it's still your time, right? It's sort of the
Sure.
limiting resource. So we hired a couple other coaches. These were usually folks that Dr. Mike was in school with. So these were other, exercise scientists, PhD students. So super passionate about what they were doing, wanted to help people, very smart, very knowledgeable. And that was a little bit easier way to scale. And then we started thinking, cool, we kind of have this like set process on how we do stuff. You could call it algorithms more or less. And so we transformed that into like selling digital products. And that was the second aha moment, because you went from, because if you're coaching someone, you can realistically maybe have like 30 to 50 clients.
Right.
Beyond that, it gets pretty hard. And then it's just scaling time, and you have to have a lot of coaches, a lot of management, etc. But man, selling digital products was the next unlock for us. And that was kind of the first real true hockey stick for RP, and was just really cool to see, because then it's just like, you have the products already there. It's really just kind of becomes a marketing game, and just how do you get more eyeballs and draw more traffic? And, we did that largely through social media, talking about our results. And yeah, it was a great time, did really well for us. So that was kind of like stage two, I suppose. Stage one was coaching, maybe even before they could argue. Stage zero was personal training. So I went from personal training to online coaching to selling digital products. And then we kind of knew we wanted to make an app eventually. The app process is really long and expensive, as putting it lightly. But yeah, eventually that kind of became the phase that we're in now, where it's like now the name of the game is selling app subscriptions. And that's where the kind of the bulk of RP revenue comes from.
And what's sort of your marketing strategy for you still social media predominantly video?
Social media content. So I would say early on, it was a lot of like Facebook, call it like 2011 through 2015 or 16. And again, it's really just posting about your success stories and your clients and testimonials and things like that. And it's just a lot of word of mouth through social media. Then it probably morphed into a lot of Instagram because, before and afters lend themselves really, really well to the Instagram medium. That did great for us from, call it 2015 to 2020, 21. We still have a very big, Instagram presence, but things are always evolving. And then I would say around like 2020, 2021, we started putting a lot of resources into YouTube. And Dr. Mike is a very skilled orator. I
Yeah.
would say he's got the gift of the gab. And it was wildly successful for us. Went on a really sort of crazy ride from 2023 up to probably, last year, kind of meteoric rise. And so that just brought a lot of eyeballs. Now, again, this is kind of one part of it. Of course, it's drawing people to the website. How do you kind of identify who these people are? Can you sort of retarget them through paid ads, middle, bottom of funnel, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't mean to paint it as like it's just a social media thing, but that's obviously a very big piece of the puzzle and a area where we've put a lot of time, effort, and resources into on the social media side.
Yeah, having an agency, we spend a lot of time figuring out how to best get whoever the target is for whatever the client is. And, I think too many times people focus on ad first and then other things, but ads are there to support. And we always try and talk, even though we make money on selling ads, we try and get people to not spend money on ads first because if you have a really robust, especially today, if you have a really robust social media channels and you're really targeting correctly and you're getting people that are interacting with your content and they believe in you and you built up the trust through authentic content, then that's going to help your ads convert those people to your site, and ultimately your site's going to convert those people to a sale. And same thing with apps. And so um, I'm glad that you're saying, I understand what you're saying about, it's not just social media, but social media certainly drives the boat in today's environment. We launched brands on shopping channels, which were very video focused early on, and physical product brands. And though I love that whole concept, it really taught us, I think, as an agency, how to prosper in today's world because we learned how to, you know, talk the message quickly, get across the points quickly, and then using video to obviously sell. So
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, social media is great. It's, the paid ads are sort of there to support it for sure.
yeah, right.
Um, one thing I will say is when you're pretty heavily reliant on social media, sometimes they can change the algorithms and stuff around.
Yeah.
And so like you've probably heard this analogy before, but like social media is sort of like the weather where it can sort of come and go and you can't really control it. Whereas if you can really dial down the attribution on paid ads and all that, it becomes a little bit more of like a faucet. You just have a little bit more control over it. It's hard. It's hard to do. Well, both are hard to do actually. But like one of the bedrock foundations that we had on social media was just really like providing people evergreen content that just was there for potentially years. So you could go back and watch some of our videos for 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they're still going to be very valuable. And so that was really the foundation. But again, kind of, things change, things evolve over time. And now it seems like, YouTube, especially well, not just YouTube, but social media in general now wants to reward that kind of clickbait, rage bait type stuff. And, I don't love it. But again, you sort of have to be able to adapt and, kind of keep your core main, like, what do we stand for at RP? It's going to be education around fitness content, but you kind of have to play the game a little bit. And so, like, evergreen content probably doesn't work quite as well as it used to. And so then you got to lean into and figure out kind of how you can entertain people a little bit more because, people have short attention spans and that's doesn't seem like that's going away anytime soon. Although I wish maybe it would, but here we are.
No, I agree with you. It's the same thing like with Amazon selling. When you're on somebody else's platform and they change the rules, you're either going to adapt or you're going to get left behind. But the beauty of it is if you can build up that clientele, that if you can build up that viewership and they're staying with you, your subscriber base is staying with you, you know, your followers are staying with you, then you can use that to your advantage because they're not going to take that away necessarily. You know, YouTube doesn't want to take away people that have already built up strong followings, right? But at the same time, they're trying to, everybody right now is trying to compete with the growth of TikTok. And TikTok videos are a totally different animal than what we see in, you know, Facebook and YouTube shorts and things like that. But, you know, there's a way to balance it. And certainly having the following, because at the end of the day, the algorithm is going to look at, okay, you've got a page, Instagram page, Facebook page, you've got followers. The people that interact on those pages, they look like this. So Facebook and Instagram are going to be able to take that, and YouTube, going to be able to take that information and do a better job of targeting the ads, which drive the costs down for the ads. If I'm just a startup in the same category as you, I'm probably going to, it's probably going to cost me 3 to 4 times what you're paying in ads to get the same result.
We're kind of testing and experimenting. Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
is even the cost per click because I don't have you know, I don't have the growth, I don't have the muscle behind it. You know, you've got history, you've got people that have interacted with the ads, and those people look like this, you know, and you can take those audiences and you can do things with them. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's, you can't get away from ads. And then the other thing I'll tell you, you know, that's very, very strong for a lot of our clients are connected TV ads because
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
could very much target because they're going through programmatic. You can very much target. The key to it is to have a great piece of creative and a great understanding of who your target customer is. Those two things are really the pieces that will give you the best result. And it's and the beauty of it is that because it's so highly targeted, you know who's interacting with your ad. And I'm sure you've seen it. You watch Netflix or you watch, you know, something on Hulu or you watch, you know, anything connected. They know who you are. You're logged in. And so we know who Nick watched. We know what he did, what he interacted with. And then, you know, tomorrow morning, you're going to get on your computer. You're going to start seeing ads fly in about the same
Yeah.
thing you watched.
Yeah. I tell you what, they, just in speaking of that, man, they love to, actually, I'll give two examples. One is very recent. One was a few years ago. I forget if I shared this with you last time we spoke when we did kind of the pre-call, but yeah, I'm a big Michigan fan.
Yeah.
And when they won the national championship in football a few years ago, I feel like the people that are creating ads to sell like championship sports team stuff have the easiest job in the world because like they just kept showing me stuff and they're like, do you want this like specific footballer? Do you? And I'm just like, well, yes, I do. Yes, I do want this. And so I'm just clicking away. Man, the people just must be raking in the dollars from that. So if you're into that type of advertising, you run those companies, kudos to you. You've probably got a real easy job. That was the one example. It was so funny. I kept thinking, I'm just like, at some point I gotta stop buying this stuff. But they kept hitting this like a new thing every day. And I'm like, oh, who am I to say no? Right.
Yeah.
Michigan
Yeah.
hasn't won a national championship in 26 years. So, you know, who knows when it's going to come again. And then the other one was, they've gotten me a couple times. And by they, I just mean, you know, advertisers in general, but like, stuff that's designed to, I guess, be like jewelry for your daughter. And so my
Uh,
daughter's got a birthday coming up. And I don't know how they did it, but they're showing me stuff. And I'm like, well, I guess I got to get this for my daughter. So, you know, here I am. I just got it in the mail yesterday. I'm probably going to give it to her today when I see her. So it's just, man, it's really funny. There's some really sophisticated stuff behind the scenes as to how they do all this
Absolutely.
and credit, you know, credit to them. And so, yeah, you know, what do we do? Well, I would say, you know, our demographic tends to be people that are a little bit more serious about fitness. You're probably not going to get someone like just easing into fitness, probably going to hit some of the other Weight Watchers, Whole30, something like that. They're probably targeting those types. We're targeting the people that have probably already been into fitness for a little bit and are like a little bit more serious about it. So that's kind of our main, you know, bread and butter, our demographic there.
Well, I mean, you target again, it's on the programmatic side, and what you're talking about is all based on the programmatic side of advertising versus Meta's got a little bit of programmatic in it, and I know that everybody says, "Oh, but it is programmatic." It's not really. And if you were on a demand side platform looking at programmatic, you'd see the difference between Meta and Google. But, nonetheless, um, as long as you know who you're targeting, right? They have a pattern and they're going to be looking at specific types of things. Like, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. I, um, I started to change my workout routine about a year ago. I I started to do more strength training because I'm still running, and I'm still rowing, but I wanted some more something different, right? So I started doing, push-ups every day, and we have weights and stuff downstairs, and so I was doing, chest and back and arms, right? And no legs because I get enough leg from everything else. And then I made the mistake for entertainment purposes of watching, Pumping Iron, Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie. I made the mistake of watching that, right, while I was working out, and I know exactly how it was done, and I know exactly who did it, but suddenly, like, I got bombarded with coaches wanting to sell me training programs for strength training, right? And they knew exactly who I was. They knew exactly what I was doing because they were so targeted. It was like, for your next triathlon, have you decided to,
Oh, yeah, that's good.
because it's going out and looking at what I have on my social channels, right? It's looking at what I've done in the past. It's looking at my bios. I'm looking at all that information, especially today with AI. So I'm the programmatic side has built a profile of Nick and said, well, Nick likes Michigan, so shove the Michigan stuff to him, right?
And they do, man. Boy, they do.
So I started getting all this stuff, and I'm like, the next thing I know, I'm buying, all these different, not just not programs necessarily, but other weight stuff, other things, different kinds of bars, and so I was having a good time with that. But we have a client who sells floral stuff all around the world, right? They can ship all around the world, and I used them a couple of years ago for I always send. I have 4 daughters. I always send everybody flowers at Valentine's Day, plus my wife, right? And I did it once, and then every holiday, right? I get a thing. Hey, don't you want to send Sabrina or Vivian? Blah 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 blah. Just click this, and the order's set. And I'm going, you know, so it's like, and every Valentine's Day, they make it very easy for me. And now the chocolate company that we used is doing the same thing to me. So it's a very simple process. Now I just have to click one button and everything goes, and they do it about a week before Valentine's Day. So I never forget.
So interesting. Okay, I've got a question for you then. Obviously, this is your wheelhouse, but like you mentioned AI. So AI is kind of out there scraping. So I mean, how do they know where like what your social media profiles are then? So I guess they just know who you are, but like how would they then identify that to potentially go and scrape it if they're pulling their stuff from bio? Or what happens if you have a private account? Man, there's so many questions there. I'm just now my mind's sort of blown because you are correct. I mean, listen, I remember ads that were so targeted that I was like, how in the world do they know this about me? It's like, are you the youngest child of a family born in rural Michigan? And it's just like, what? Yes, I am, but like, how do you know that stuff? So it's crazy. Yeah, it's
So
wild.
if you've ever gone out and Googled yourself, and look at the amount of information on you that's out there, right? So, I'm Nick Shaw. I live down, in this state, and my previous addresses, one in New York, one in Michigan, one in this. Yes, that's the Nick Shaw. That's the guy we're looking for. He's the same guy that owns this business, and he's the same guy that competed in this, and he's the same guy that went to Michigan. He's the same guy. So within minutes, AI has scraped you and knows everything about you. Now, what you think is private isn't necessarily private. Every single platform out there, I don't know if you've ever read the terms and conditions for Meta, TikTok, YouTube, any of that. Your information is being bought and sold.
Yeah, that's what they're selling, right? That okay, yeah, that's how they kind of
So
know who you are. Yeah, okay.
yeah, so within, AI within minutes can do a profile of you. It took, look, usually we started we used to ask prior to these shows to send a bio and a headshot. And now we have a product that we just go, give me a background on Nick. And all of a sudden, I've got 3 pages on you. I know where you were born, who your parents are, everything. And just so then we can build a bio for you for the intro to the show. So that's why I'm saying, like, programmatic advertising for connected TV is so much more powerful. Like, you're looking at a guy who had a brand and wasted millions of dollars on on traditional television advertising, and I hated it because it was just, I felt like I was just throwing money away because it's not targeted. On traditional television, you're targeting a channel. You're saying, oh, I think this will work on sport ESPN, or I think this will work on Fox Sports News. In programmatic advertising, you're focusing on a persona. I'm saying, I know who my persona is. It's a guy who's been, who's maybe got a membership to Gold's Gym. He's been doing fitness for, 3 years. He's doing this, he's doing this, he's doing this. That's my profile. I know who my profile is. And now I'm going to put that information in. AI is going to say, oh, I've got, you know, 52,654 men between this age that fits that profile. And I've got, 37,212 women that fit that profile. And these are the things they watch. And then you put in your ad, and then you figure out how much you want to spend. I mean, you can do it all the way down to a zip code. It's so anyway, but that's really what our biggest focus has been as an agency over the last couple of years, because you can get such better returns than just doing traditional advertising. And you are using Meta and Google because you're retargeting from who interacted with your ad, where they interacted with it. I
Thank
mean,
you
we
so
could hop
much.
on another call and go
Yeah.
through some stuff, but yeah. And now we're pretty much out of time, and we wasted it talking about
Hey, I don't think it was a waste. Hopefully people, because it is fascinating how it all
yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah.
It's the peek behind the curtain, so to speak, where it's like the Wizard of Oz going on, where you look
Yeah,
behind.
yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to come on and have me tell you about my business a little bit,
Sure.
but
Well, hey, I think we both got something out of it, so I think the listeners will also get something out of it.
yeah, yeah. No, no, no question about it. But I do. I think it's really great what you've done. I've taken a look at I think your site is really well done. I love the testimonial side of it, and I love, like, all because the credibility side of, if you're going to be a guy who's into strength training, bodybuilding, whatever, you want to go where those people have tried and tested it and proven that it to be true. So
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the things we've always had lots of, testimonials before and afters. Again, the evolving algorithm on social media, the Instagram doesn't tend to reward before and afters anymore, but we've got no shortage of them, and so we can. It, I remember early on in RP existence, it was like, "Hey, does this work?" Then we just got so many before and after, so many success stories. The question shifted from, does this work, to, oh, how do you get more people to know about it? Because there's no question. It was undeniable at that point. Like, if you follow it, you're going to get really good results. So that was kind of the big focus early on, is just like, yeah, you got to prove yourself. But then once you do, it with social proof, all that, it's a lot easier because people look to it and they go, oh, well, this person did it. And they kind of look a little bit like me, that I could probably do it as well.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I'm going to I'm going to give it a shot because I I'm on this kick to do something a little bit differently. I don't think I'm ever going to stop running or cycling or doing rowing, but I need something else in my life to break up that sort of routine. Um, so I'm going to give it. I am going to give it a shot.
Yeah, we should message offline. It might be worth just a separate call. We can go behind the curtains a little bit more, and I can maybe give you a little bit more insight into kind of how to best use our app. Because again, listen, if you're listening to this, you're someone that already does a little bit of cardio and all that, and you're like, well, how do I incorporate it in some strength training? Literally 2 times a week will add tons of benefit. There's just so many. You earlier were talking about longevity and all this stuff. It's like, again, it's undeniable now. The lifting is so good for you in so many areas. Like, I believe everyone should be lifting weights to some degree. And again, it doesn't have to be this thing that takes up all your time. It can literally be twice a week for 30 minutes. You can get in there. You can do some supersets like back and forth. You can do like chest and back. You can do, or, arms and shoulders, whatever it is. And you can crank through it pretty quick. It gets your heart, you get all these benefits from it. And so I think people have this false assumption that it needs to take over your whole life. And that's not true. You could literally do 1 hour a week, 2 sessions on Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, Wednesday, Saturday, whatever it is, and 30 minutes, just get in there, work your butt off, you're out, and it's only 30 minutes, right? It doesn't really take that long, but you got to be able to get after it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no doubt. But hey, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Ran over a little bit, but that's okay. But again, whether you're, optimizing your training program or, whatever you want to do, check out RP Hypertrophy app. And follow Nick on Instagram, follow the brand, go visit the website, which is rpstrength.com. rpstrength.com, right? Yeah. rpstrength.com. And take a look. It's fascinating stuff. And until next time,
Thank you for having me on.
my pleasure.